Hello, everyone. So today is amenities and tourism, and the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Mrs. Velsey and also apologies from Councillor Peacock. But we also have Councillor Whitaker who will be substituting Councillor Peacock in his absence. So I'm going to begin with proposing that we accept the apologies. Please may I have a second?
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any comments, anything? Right, and to vote for approval, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. And then we will also now vote on whether we allow Councillor Whitaker to be a substitute in the meeting. I'd like to propose those. Can I have a second, please?
Happy to second that.
And can we have a vote on it? Thank you very much. Let's go.
Vote now.
But the second item on the agenda is declarations of interest. So if anyone with an interest could please notify me.
Technically, I suppose, when we're discussing the fountain, and if we get into anything to do with the electricity supply, I work for electricity.
I don't know.
It's kind of irrelevant, but
Yeah, I think
technically,
I don't think we need to declare that. That's
technically,
Thank you for listening. Agenda item 3 is to approve the minutes of the meetings held on the 20th of March 2025. They will have been circulated. I would personally like to approve and accept those as an accurate representation of the meeting. Could I have a second for that?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from that? Or if we can have a vote to accept those. Thank you very much. I have to do my bit of signing now.
You can initial each page until the last page when you sign and date it.
And that'll be today's date.
Yes, please.
Thursday.
Yep.
Right, that should be that bit. Agenda item 4 is chairman's announcements. I'll begin by saying welcome to the new committee. This is my first ever being a chairman of a committee before, so I'd appreciate some patience and your support, obviously, while I start to grow into the role and get used to things. And well, thank you very much for that. And we also do have something to mention in regards to complaints made by member of the public in terms of our local play parks. We had a complaint in regards to graffiti and in regards to the maintenance of these play parks. We've since had a response from, let me get the name right. That's wrong.
Rob
Rob
Anderton,
Anderton,
Middlesex District Council.
in which those claims of them being unkept were contradicted. Is that the best word to use? As he sets out in his email, he effectively says that from what he sees, the maintenance is well kept. There's no concerns on that front. And so obviously, if anything comes up, we will let committee know. But as far as I'm concerned, that's all I need to mention on that front.
Yeah, just so that everyone's aware, we're following up on the complaints received, and I think based on.
I was going to say I've got some complaints about play parks, so I'm happy to feed those in.
Yeah, if you could please, thank you very much. I think that's it.
Yeah, we'll continue to follow up with Mid Sussex on that.
Thank you very much. Next, we move on to the tourism report, agenda item 5. And for that, please hand over to Alice.
Well, thank you, Chair. So my report is just for noting this time, but I did want to add that since the meeting where some of us here went to meet Bluedale Railway about what they're doing for Railway 200, we're now working with them to create a tour app on their app that they're developing, so that East Grinstead will be listed as one of the tours that you can do. So instead of people waiting at the train station, hopefully they can then download this and see this and take it as an opportunity to come up into town. So we're going to do a little history tour from the station to the statue, which is quite well known, but we've got a lot of that information in a lot of detail. So having it, I think, in an app with some little tours and photos and some history as you're walking along should be really appealing. And that app, once it goes live, there's still more work to do. Once they make it live, is going to be available for 5 years. So hopefully it's something as the tourism team that we can continually direct people to.
Thank you very much. So
That's it, unless someone's got any questions in
Yes.
this section.
any questions?
Actually.
I've only got one thing, the Mayfair surprisingly well on the sales.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's not the
Yeah.
best we've ever had, but it was pretty good.
Compared to everything else, I thought it was quite good.
Yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a good day and good weather,
Yeah.
good turnout. People liked the new merch, which was great. So yeah.
Thank you for the report, Alice. I was just going to ask, with regards to the calendar photography competition, so obviously closing date September.
Yeah.
How quickly then do we, I guess, announce the winners and get it published and then into sale?
October is going to be very quick turnaround, so we don't miss that sale season, because from January, particularly not to November, not much. So
Okay,
yeah,
so really
it's going to
quick.
be quite tight turnaround. So yeah, probably we haven't actually set a date in September, but it probably will need to be near the beginning of September.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Is there anyone else? Okay, brilliant. All right, so that's for noting.
noted.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6, that is the Estates and Civic Pride report, which I'm going to hand over to the town hall.
It will be a very rapid gallop through. Unfortunately, Alison isn't here today to cover it in her usual extraordinarily detailed fashion. So let's have a look. I can just get back to that. It's been a fairly standard period. There's nothing exceptional to note. I'm not asking for any resolutions to be made off the back of the report. I think highlights are the new flower bed displays in place. I hope you've all noticed it. I put the war memorial and the summer planting has been completed, which has been great news. General, I mean, hopefully everyone's read the report. We continue to make sure graffiti is removed as quickly as possible. Salt bin audit, which we were asked to do, that was completed. And I was also asked to check whether we had historical record of people who'd asked for new salt bins. We don't. Everything that we've provided with you is everything that we've got. We've never kept a historical record of any potential interest. So we, we don't know if there are any areas. We don't have any spare capacity beyond that which we've already advised you of. And the audit is done annually, needs to be submitted back to West Sussex in August, so it'll be being done anytime now, I think. But I know Alison does send the team out to check those bins in addition to that annual audit. So that's really the only update. I think we were talking about whether we would purchase additional bins and stop checking them or just leave them as they are. I think in the absence of any other direction, we'll just continue as we are with them, and just if we do get an influx of requests, we can address that again. The bin that we moved, we were waiting for permission from West Sussex to install it in a particular location. We are still waiting for that to be received before we can complete the installation. Don't ask me where it's going though. Can't remember the actual location.
For a bit of time before it gets cold again.
Yeah.
It was the corner of Hoskins.
Okay, there we go. Right, Alison will know. Another thing a minor thing to note is the waste collection of the bin on the Turners Hill Road Recreation Ground. We had, I think you're aware, there's been a little bit of a to and fro with that one in the past. We had tried to get Glendale to empty it, but on our checking, it just wasn't being done. So we told them not to bother. And we've applied for our own waste collection licence, which I think was less than £100. So we're just emptying that bin ourselves now, just to keep on top of it,
Excellent.
which is good.
Any questions? Councillor Heath?
So firstly, I just want to say, as always, the flower displays look incredible, and the train, the number of people that I've seen just stopping, taking photos of that, it is a real centerpiece. And then I just had one question, which was really around the old courthouse. Obviously, we knew that there'd be some disruption with the neighbouring works. But I was a little bit surprised to see that it's having a financial impact in terms of loss of hirers. I just wondered whether we've got any recourse, to go back and claim for disruption rather than us being hit with a loss.
I don't know, it's something we can investigate. I'd assume not, but we can certainly see if there is anything that we can do.
I think if it's a direct sort of cause and effect, which is what the report said, I think it'd be interesting to see if we can recover anything.
We'll make a note.
Anything else?
I had exactly the same point actually, but on that as well, we've got the budget. The budget was a slight overspend, 24-25. We know these things are going to vary because of the amount of work. Have we budgeted enough for 25-26? And that's probably a question to float in the air because there are unexpecteds. But I just wondered on that one. And the other point really was actually good luck with the Green Flag Awards, with the results coming in, because they worked really hard to get that. So that was a good luck for me for the results coming in August, for all their hard work. I hope we get it. So.
Okay.
Fine. Brilliant. Thank you very much. We're now moving on to agenda item 7 with burial services. Hello. Would you like to say something?
Thank you, Jeff. My report is again just for noting this time. I think the main area to note is that we are still waiting for planning permission for the Forestarians. We haven't had, as far as I think we've had one objection just because they wanted to know a bit more about it and things like that. So that's where we are with that. So once we finally find out if we've got the go ahead, then we can start work on that. And the other thing to note is that the fencing is currently being installed for the goats at Queen's Road. Once that is in and we've got the contract looked at and finalised, we'll get it signed and the goats will take up residence in Queen Road.
Hurrah.
I'm so excited to hear that after visiting it and the amount of vegetation that there is and knowing that goats will hoover up that vegetation. It's quite an exciting time. I'm assuming the fences will eventually move around
Yes,
until.
so we've sectioned off the first bit, so the bit which, as you come in the gate that we went in, so that bit from there in front of the yew tree, so not even anywhere near the yew tree, up to sort of the flat bit, that's been sectioned off, so that's gonna be the first bit to see how they get on and how well it works for them. And then once that's done, then we'll move on to the next section, which will be just up to the fence where the belfry is. And then we'll go on to the third section if it all works out well. So fingers crossed. And that, and hopefully that she the farmer has said that she would keep them there till about August, I think she said, and then take them home so that, you know, the winter time and then bring them back. So we will have a bit of time to get the next set of fencing in. And
Thank you, I'm very excited about that. Something different.
Just still on the goats, have the locals been informed that they're coming?
so the Belfry residents are all aware, they know. The house directly next door knows, and the house next to them know. But the fencing is going all the way 6 foot up around, so. That's why they're there.
Hoping they'd throw them a welcoming committee.
Are they quiet goats?
I don't think so.
I
don't think we
quiet.
get-
Goats quiet.
No, they bleat.
Uh,
Yeah, it's different.
So I'll keep you abreast of everything.
I think we try and then
And if it doesn't work.
If we get
we'll
something
go
in,
to-
then absolutely, we've got to change our plan, but I think it's something we need to try to be entirely different, and if it works, if we can move to having.
Try it first and then see where we can go
Yeah.
if it doesn't, or
We
if it
talked
does.
about cameras, didn't we, to watch
Yes.
these things.
Yeah.
We did, because then we
Yeah.
can share it live stream
Well, like,
and
yeah.
stuff like that, so we
Yeah.
did look at that, so if it's successful, hopefully we can move forward to that stage,
Yeah. that'd be-
would be amazing.
Are there any other comments? Brilliant, thank you very much for that report. We're now moving on to agenda item 8, which is events. And I please ask Alice to go through.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, I'll just run through my report. So VE Day went well, it's well attended. Thank you everyone for the support for that event. Eastbourne Live was well attended as well, and we were very lucky with the weather, it was just perfect. And we did have a few teething issues with the sound and stage, the new company, so we're just working on them with that. We've had a few suggestions. We're going to try and have a better vegetarian food option. We are also looking at whether we could have a gazebo selling our East Grinstead merch, increase our income more. But that would require a few more extra people to help man that. So I wanted to ask if that's something councillors would be interested in helping. Much more appealing than emptying the bins, I'm sure.
I love that job.
If people think that that's a good idea, we might have to ask for a bit of support to do that.
I am available in August to do that if you wish to have it in August.
Lovely,
I'm
thank
happy
you.
to.
Yeah, I've got you down all day for August, which is fab.
You can gazebo it if you want, especially if it's raining.
Probably quite a good place to stand and have people come to us and be able to talk to people rather than us constantly running around doing things. So we will try and get it on the volunteer schedule then and get that manned. And I can show people how to use the sum up machine, which is very easy. Okay, brilliant. In the July one, we're going to have the Scouts have asked if they can come and do the children's entertainment, so that's fantastic. They're going to do games and activities down on the hill, so that'll be brilliant. Just waiting to hear a bit more about their plan for that, and then we can share that so everyone knows to expect that. Yeah, we've got a great lineup in July. Obviously, this was the lineup that was cancelled from last year. So I think town feels like it's buzzing with excitement because they've been waiting so long to see these acts, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good turnout. So that'll be fun. So the pump track, I know this has kind of gone around to everyone. So this has now been booked. So for those that aren't aware, we're having a pump track event day at King George's Field on the 23rd of July from 10 till 3. So they will be there to show people how to use the pump track, what to do, and to offer bikes of all sizes and helmets to be lent for anyone who wants to have a go. But it can also be used for roller skates, skateboards, scooters, even wheelchairs. So anyone's welcome to come and have a go. So we'll be advertising that by the end of the week. We're also going to have a DJ workshop there, which has been agreed as well, to try and make it more of an event day, get the ice cream van down, hopefully we'll have lovely weather. And I just got a quote in today from Jay's paint shop that does all the local kind of graffiti workshops with young people. And he could attend if we wanted to add that to the event as well. That would be £370, which wasn't in the initial ask. So I was going to mention if that's something to agree on now, or if I need to come back another time.
I think we can, as part of the event, I think we can, I mean, it's a small amount, so
Yeah.
if committee is happy for that to be part of it, I think we can proceed with covering that today.
I'm happy with that. Should we what to accept that? Is it worth having a vote or just?
Yeah, you can do. I mean, it's a small amount that's certainly within limits, so it's nothing that can, so it's just that in principle, if committee is happy for us to add that to the event as well, then that's fine. We'll
I
go
think
with
it'd be
that.
great.
I think another
Marvellous.
attraction for
I saw
make
the
a
table go
really.
spray cans around the town.
Oh, that's right, I was just thinking.
But, you know, the
Purely
more
artistic.
that is going on,
Yeah.
the more people we're going to attract.
He brings vinyls along, so they can graffiti on that and take it home.
That's
So
cool.
it's quite
Lovely.
I might have been doing.
Thank you for that, just mentioned that because we just got the quote in today.
That's great.
Yeah, and we've got Eastport Live, and then we've got VJ Day on the 15th of August. We're gonna have a special tour around Mount Noddy. If anyone's available on that day, they're welcome to come and join. We'll be advertising that slightly nearer the time. And then Classic Motor Show, we're fully booked for cars. We've got 20 motorbikes, so we've got a little bit of space for motorbikes. Otherwise, we've got quite a big waiting list. So yeah, and then rest of the year's events is as listed.
Excellent.
So, that's what I was going to mention, sorry. So we are looking at Martin's Law about kind of the terrorism and how that affects events moving forward. So we are doing some kind of training on that, updating our risk assessments, taking that all into consideration. I've got a meeting next week with the company that are going to be doing our road closures, which we've agreed to have professionally manned, just to talk through risk assessments with them. And I've got them booked in for the car show for the big reveal. And I'm going to speak to him about Remembrance Day as well. I know we've always had a strong offering of volunteers for this, but it's still a town event. And so we're going to look to book him for that as well. And just contact all the volunteers because I know they've been doing it for many years, some people, and they do actually enjoy doing it. But I'll just explain to everyone who normally does come. That's why we're kind of moving in a different direction and thank them for their support. So that's where we're at with that.
Yeah.
Just a couple of extra bits to add to that,
Thank you.
is the Kiddercal Mass event.
Thank you. I'm here. I haven't forgotten to write
Yeah.
that down. Okay, so Kiddercal Mass is booked for the same day as Eastport Live. So I have had a meeting with Steve about how to manage potentially 100 so people on their bikes, and we've got a plan that they're going to enter from Eastport and cycle straight through, round down past the ambulance bay, and then come up onto the field. And they're going to park their bikes on the right hand side of the field, and they're responsible for their own bikes to keep them over there. And we're not going to allow any bikes on the terrace. It's too busy. We don't have the space for people to be tripping over bikes. So we're going to make sure that is all controlled. But it's great. Bring more people to Eastport Live, but we just want to make sure that we keep it as safe as possible.
Yeah, we've asked for an additional risk assessment from Steve,
Yeah.
just around that. Obviously, up here on
It's
Eastport
busy.
Live days, it's very busy, and we don't want there to be to minimise the risk of any issues occurring, basically. So that's been done.
Thank you.
The other thing was about having a fair trade
Oh, yeah.
marquee on the terrace at Eastport Live. With the bar moving into here, there's more space on the terrace. And Fair Trade are currently looking to renew the town's status as a fair trade town, and that's something that the town council has historically been very supportive of through offering fair trade products to all of our hirers and for Mayor's Parlour. And to support them in that, it was suggested that we allow them to have a small marquee on the terrace. So although historically it's been Mayor's Charities and the Lions only, we just wanted to make sure that this committee was happy to allow the fair trade marquee to be present, as it's such a wide, town-wide status. If that's okay with everyone.
That's my no issue with that.
I'm happy to,
Yeah,
to
to
allow
support
that.
that.
I think it's good for the town.
Yeah, I think that's. Okay.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions on this agenda item?
And just to note that we'll be ratifying the urgent decision taken to have the pump track installed. Although it's been approved through the urgent decision
Yeah.
process, we'll just ratify that formally in the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, everyone's happy.
Thank you, Dennis.
So agenda item 9 is St Margaret's Loop.
So I propose, because we've had some additional information come to light since the report and the agenda were issued, we now propose that this item will be moved to confidential session for discussion. And on that basis, to make it easier for our members of the public present, I propose that you make this the final item on the agenda. And so we move to discussing the water fountain, the actions list, and then you resolve whether you wish to go into confidential to discuss St Margaret's Loop, if that's acceptable to everybody.
I'd like to propose exactly what's the town clerk just said.
Very well said.
Second that.
Thank you very much. And should we have a vote on that one?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so agenda item 9, I guess, is the water fountain, and town clerk is.
Yeah.
The water fountain. Did everybody read the report issued around the water fountain?
Yes.
So obviously this is before my
Yeah.
time. And I have had several conversations with our esteemed Alison about this since I joined. So the water fountain, it was agreed to take this on. I think it was actually 2 years ago when I look back through the minutes, May 2022, 3 years.
3 years ago, yeah.
Goodness me, and it was opened last year for use. And as part of that, obviously, we were given a grant of £5,000 from Mid Sussex District Council towards the ongoing upkeep and maintenance of the fountain. And we were also required to test the water to make sure it's potable, it's called, which means fit for drinking. Last year, tests were done monthly. I included the sample results in the report. And you can see how extraordinarily variable they were. Quite odd. Even though I've gone back to the company and said, but why? It just seems really odd to me that they're so variable. So due to the results being what they were in May, which was quite high, we were recommended to introduce a process of flushing, and it started off being flushing a couple of times a week. And as some days passed and the tests proceeded, we were advised to update that to daily flushing, Monday to Friday, going out to the fountain, flushing each tap. There's 2 taps and they're both press taps, so you have to hold them pressed in for them to flush. You can't just turn them on and leave them. So you have to have either one person stood there doing it one at a time or 2 people together. 10 minutes flushing is what happens, which is quite an overhead. We've also been advised that we should be testing the temperature of the water as it's flushed to keep flushing until the temperature stabilises at a temperature which will be determined by the temperature of the water, not a number that they could give us that we should be targeting. The temperature will probably go up and then come back down, and when it's stable, that's the temperature. That's when we can stop flushing, basically. So it's quite a convoluted process we've been advised to do. We turned the fountain off for the winter, and it was an innocent decision made based on the fact that, well, number one, we didn't want to be flushing the water all winter, but also number two, just for risk of pipes burst. You know, cold water, I've had it before in previous locations where if you leave the water switched on, you've got a risk that the pipes will freeze and you end up with an impromptu water fountain that you need to sort out. So we thought we'll turn the water fountain off for the winter. It's probably not going to be used much, and then we'll look to return it on in the spring. The initial testing was done by the company who did the testing last year, and they felt that the results were high, and that they couldn't recommend that we turned the fountain back on until we could get the results more stable. We decided to get a second opinion, and that second opinion has since arrived since this report was done. And although the results are still high, they are of the opinion that as long as the results, if we retest regularly, which obviously we would have to do, if the results remain stable, then that would not indicate there's an issue, and so it would be safe to turn back on. However, we'll still need to do the flushing and the regular testing. So what we're asking you to do, all things considered, is there were options that I missed, options that have been suggested by the original water testing companies, that for a water fountain such as this, they would normally have an automated flushing system installed, which is what keeps the water fresh. We don't think that will be very viable to install at the Victorian water fountain due to the material it's built from. We'd need a planning application and whether it would potentially disturb the fountain to such a degree that it would never be permitted. We're not even sure if there would be space within the body of the fountain for the water flushing mechanism that's been advised. Another option is to chlorinate the pipework. When the water was reinstated, it should have had a chlorination point installed along the pipework by South East Water. That wasn't done for whatever reason. We've gone back to South East Water, who have said that is not their problem, it is our problem. If we want to install one, then we have to do that at our cost and effort, etc. I don't have a price for that, but that would involve injecting the pipes with a chlorine solution to flush out the pipes. I think they suggested that would only need to be done once a year, but I'm not sure if that makes sense really, because surely it would rebuild over the months. So we'd need to establish more detail about that because we don't have a quote for it anyway. So we felt that we wanted to bring this back to committee for consideration. How do you want to proceed? We have spent approximately £1,600 of the £5,000 grant that was given to us. That figure does not include the approximate hour a day that we would of staff time, if you like. That's literally just for the majority is for the water sample testing and water signage. So proposals are we consider look into more detail for the mitigation suggestions and the costs and impacts of installing either a chlorination point or to see if it's even feasible to get an automated flushing system installed. We continue as we were, continue the daily flushing of the taps where possible. Obviously, sometimes we just might not be able to get to it because the summer is a very busy time of year for our outdoor services team. We can't flush at the weekends because we don't have staff to flush at the weekends. And I don't think we'd really, well, don't want to speak to you, but my recommendation is not that we get outdoor services members in on a Saturday and Sunday to flush the water fountain. If you can't flush it every day, the advice is that we have to double the flushing time on a Friday and a Monday. Again, I'm not a water expert. I'm not quite sure how that helps because it's still going to sit there. But anyway, do we put additional signs a sign at the water fountain advising users to run the water before filling their bottles? That's a simple thing. I haven't looked into the logistics of where a sign would go, or we'd have to consider as well what the optics of that would be to the public if we're saying, please flush the water for a couple of minutes before filling your water bottle. Do we just flat out decommission the water fountain? Do we see if we can hand the water fountain back to the East Grinstead Society because they still feel very passionately about it being in live use in the town and hand over the balance of the commuted sum for the ongoing maintenance? And as well, if a hose pipe ban comes into effect this summer and we've had some very dry weather already, do we continue to flush it? Do we, because it's 20 minutes of water just being flushed in case people come to use it. Yeah. There's quite a lot to think about here, really, and on that basis, I hand it over to you to debate.
Thank you.
There's a lot to it, isn't there?
You become a water expert. So.
On the agenda, it would seem, yes.
My gut feeling is obviously we don't have to make a decision on whether we would put in any sort of chlorination point in now, but it would be interesting to know what that would look like and that logistics around. That would be my gut feeling. Because views.
Oh, I've got lots to say.
So I'm not sure that we have enough information to make a decision. I agree with you. I think there's probably a further level of understanding around the chlorination point, automatic flushing systems, whether we can't put signs up. So it'd be good, I think, to go a level down on that. I think personally, when I read decommission the water fountain, it's great to have all options on a page, but I was thinking about the turnout for the town when it was opened, and we made quite a lot of noise about it, and I didn't feel that we'd feel responsible by just handing it back. If we can't, with all of our resources, get to a solution that makes the water safe, and brings it back into, you know, use for the residents, then I do not believe that the East Grinstead Society will. So I don't know, that just felt to me like it wouldn't be the responsible thing to do, it would be the easy thing to do. So yeah, I'd be all for really understanding more, getting further detail, time, costs on the other areas.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barrow.
We have £5,000 of Mid Sussex money to look after this fountain. I believe that we should spend that money on the fountain. Beyond that, I don't think that we should go beyond that until we know what it's really going to look like. So we have got £3,500. I have spoken to the town clerk about man hours on this. That doesn't include the man hours. And if we start, and I did say that if we're going to do that and we're going to have that responsibility, those man hours should come out of that budget. And I think I wonder how long that budget would then actually last. If we go and look at chlorination, what is that going to cost? If it can even be done, there's an if before we get to the cost. And putting the self-flushing in, that old sandstone is delicate, isn't it? And how much more work could go on around that, and how much, how robust that actual structure is again quite a big thing, because every time it's cleaned, it just erodes slightly. That's what happens to it. That sandstone just gets a little bit thinner, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah.
So how far is that 5,000 going to go? I think we are, I'm going to use this word, and it's probably responsible and obliged to use that funding. Beyond that, I'm not keen to spend the budget on the fountain beyond that, but I think we should explore what it can be, because it might end up just being that we just need to do less work if we put those things in, but we could end up spending £3,500 just on man hours and finding out one thing. So I do think we should spend that budget on it.
Councillor Byer.
It is a difficult issue, isn't it, this one? And one of the things that strikes me is that we've got to look at potentially what could be done with either chlorination or an automatic flushing. The other potential outcomes are ones that are problematic. I'm just wondering whether, as well as getting information so that we can actually have a meaningful discussion over the options, it might be worth having an informal meeting with that and inviting East Grinstead Society as well.
Yeah.
To have an interest at the very least in it. I mean, clearly we would have to make the decision as councillors in a public meeting and in a normal committee meeting, but it might be worth having their input and having a discussion so that whatever happens doesn't come as a surprise to them or us, and there's some sort of understanding of where we go.
The town clerk is in communication regularly, so they are aware.
Yeah, they have been in for a meeting. They do know the fountain is not currently turned on, and I do know that we've had problems with the TCB, I forgot which mirror, levels in the water, so they are aware of that.
Thank you, Chair. It is an interesting debate. Effectively, this was a joint venture between the Town Council and East Grinstead Society, which was very good. James Baldwin and particularly Robin Wally were instrumental in producing the fountain with the opening, as Councillor Hughes has already said. So it's delicate. We always knew that Mid Sussex came in with £5,000, which was great. We always knew there was a risk on running it. Do we know how much it's used? How much water is used?
Because oddly, we're not being billed for the water usage yet.
Yes, but there is a meter, and
it's we don't really know why. It's something that we didn't realise, I don't think, until recently, and so Alison's just gone, oh, wow.
So I think it's a good time to do a review, 2 years. a formal review, which you've done in the report and very eloquently said, Town Clerk, thank you for that. And I don't think it's any surprise to anybody that there are technical issues and budgetary issues. The important thing is that the fountain is there. I do think we should have signs anyway to say, to stop, signs are cheap and informative.
Yeah.
To inform the public of the usage and really the risks potentially. It's tricky, but thank you for the very, very detailed written and verbal reports.
Does anyone else have anything to say?
Totally agree with everything that's been said. I think we do need to look into it before we do make a decision. Definitely.
So the action seems to be to look into the coronation as a possibility. To also, once we find out more about that, to organise a more informal meeting with ourselves and members of East Grinstead Society. And then if everyone is in agreement, exploring into the signage and having signs there, as Councillor Whittaker suggested. Does anyone have any issue with that?
No, that's one actually thing. The fountain is currently off. Do you want us to, we are under some pressure to turn it back on.
Who are we under pressure from?
East Grinstead Society, we've had an email from a member of the public as well, asking why it's not on. Do we want to turn it back on now? Are you happy for it to go
You're
back
going to
on?
need the signage in place before you turn it on.
Get some signage to say flush it,
Yeah.
flush it
Yeah,
before you use it,
yeah,
which
Then-
will.
And then a risk assessment around that, because as soon as somebody
So-
says, oh, I didn't,
yeah.
I've been poorly
Just-
because I drank the water,
But
how liable are we for that?
Just a simple sign to say flush it before you use it,
Yeah.
You know.
That's fine.
which you'll do normally at home anyway, with your taps and
Yeah.
test you and so on.
And obviously the second assessment has said they would not, they are not advising not to turn the water back on, if that makes sense. I've got
Yeah.
one company that's saying don't turn it on, one company saying you should be fine. So that is, I could go and get a third opinion and see which side of the fence they fall on.
Signage and turn it.
Yeah, okay.
So you're happy to resolve to turn it on, sorry.
Yeah,
Over.
no, I think
I think it's important if we can get it on safely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hot. There's more people in town than ever. I think I spoke to at East Court Line. I had a few people say to me, "Is it on? Is it not on?" So I think, and you see people going up and walking away. So yeah, if we can do it,
It's really cyclists, isn't it? So
Yeah. people with dogs as well.
a pretty hardy bunch.
so. I don't know whether we need
No.
to vote on all these action points.
So in summary, I've got, you're proposing to explore the mitigation proposals, suggestions, install a sign recommending run the water for a while before drinking, to turn the fountain back on, and to explore an informal meeting with East Grinstead Society once we've got more information. I think that's everything.
And
So can I just ask one further question? So if, we've got some amazing shopkeepers, retail owners, whatever you want to call them, friends, along that high street who love having the fountain there. It feels like if it's a push for us to get there with staff every day or weekend, I am sure if we had a conversation, we could definitely get that volunteers group going. I just wonder if it's something that we'd want to explore.
Perhaps that's something East Grinstead Society could help with, actually.
Like
they could
to
help
have
with that
over
all
weekends, wouldn't it?
Just
Yeah,
particularly if you
yeah,
have events.
I can see
Might help
July
with
or
weekends, bank
anybody
holidays.
going out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because the shops are open.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Good idea.
It's,
Yeah.
I think I will. I'll chuck that back at East Grinstead Society and see if they could help with that.
think first signage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if everyone's happy with that, I'm closing that. If I could have a second.
Happy to second that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hughes. Any last comments? Thank you. And if we can take a vote on that. Thank you very much. We now move on to the final item on the agenda.
What the action is first, appendix.
We have the action list.
Yes.
If- I don't know which these
Okay,
things-
so it's me again. The action list which was circulated with the papers, several are complete. Some of the ones outstanding is St Margaret's Loop, which we are going to discuss. We have one which is where we've asked Inspector Derek to have officers present at our major town events. I know you emailed him, didn't you, Alice? I don't know if
I didn't hear the beginning, but so.
where we requested Inspector Derek to have uniformed presence at our major town events this year.
Yes, we have.
Have we had them here?
No.
No, we haven't. But we asked him, didn't we?
Yes.
And he said he'd see what he could do.
Yeah.
So we've done what we can. We can remind him. Well, I suppose we can chase that for each event, can't we? Action that's open is the S106 funding request for the Columbaria. That is, we've written the report, but we won't proceed with it until the planning commission is resolved.
Yeah.
So as soon as that's done, that will go in.
Yeah.
To continue to explore options available to us to open the right-hand side of the Queen's Road Cemetery. We haven't progressed that yet, because we've been doing
The other
Yeah.
side,
yeah.
And the
the wall.
as well.
Yeah. And that is all of the open ones. So,
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? None of those done noting?
No,
Yes,
please.
noted.
Thank you. Now we're moving on to the final item on the agenda.
So we're going to resolve the. Are you happy to resolve to move into confidential session to discuss the St Margaret's Loop update report? Which means the public and press will be excluded from this meeting. So we have to very politely ask you if you mind moving. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sounds like, can I just say the reason for that is commercial sensitivity?
Yeah.
Because we may get into areas of discussion
Yeah,
where it's commercially sensitive and
Absolutely.
it's usual protocol to do
Yes.
that. So it's not anything personal.
No, thank you.
Do I have to?
No, we will stop the recording of the meeting now because this is the
Yeah.
final item on the agenda. So although the meeting isn't finished, I will stop the recording now. Let me just find the
Sorry, Charlie.
button. He's already gone.
That was it.
Yeah, where's the?
Did he go when you said it was going to be a closed item?
It's still running. No, it's still running.
Oh.
Using my mouse and